Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to live according to Ayurveda. So you might not have heard of Ayurveda, and most likely you might just know a little bit about it if you're watching this video and you want to learn more. So I'm going to give a basic introduction and teach you how, in a general way, you can live your life in alignment with Ayurveda's principles. Ayurveda means life knowledge or life science, and I just think that sounds really cool. It just sounds more in tune with nature and life and just everything. You know, in Ayurveda they believe that everything is connected, and that's one of my favorite things about it. And also that it focuses on the body, mind, and the soul. So it actually recognizes that you are a human and you are a mind and you are a soul. And this is really, it's knowledge about life. And when people say science, I think they sometimes think about like experiments and studies and, you know, learning new things about things. But when it comes to life science in this sense, I think it's deeper than that and a lot more of a wider scope. So Ayurveda is the world's oldest health system. It dates back a few thousand years in India. I just love this because when people learn things and it sticks around for that long, that says a lot about it. And there are still, obviously, there's a lot of people studying Ayurveda nowadays and living in alignment with it. And so I think the longer something sticks around, then I think that says a lot about it, because when you look at fads and trends that come and go, I mean, you learn pretty quickly if something doesn't work. And if something's been around for a couple thousand years, I really trust that. So the central theme of Ayurveda is aligning your whole self with nature. So your whole self is the body, mind, and soul. And if you are a follower of this channel, you know that that's pretty much what I talk about. Holistic wellness. And that's why I love Ayurveda so much, because it's pretty much the same thing. So Ayurveda recognizes the three body types of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. These are called doshas, or another name is constitution. You've probably heard the word constitution. So there's three different body types that are generally what you would fit into one of these categories. For the most part, you can also have a little bit of each, so I'm going to get into that in a minute. But basically what I wanted to say here is that depending on which of these body types you most identify with, that is how you would go about creating your life in alignment with Ayurveda. So it's a science, and it's a really nuanced system, and that's why it's not something that can be learned in a few minutes. It's kind of a pretty wide, I mean, it covers everything. It covers diet, it covers exercise, it covers seasonal eating, it covers so many things, like the way your mind works and the way your appearance is, just so much stuff. So the goal of living an Ayurvedic lifestyle is to prevent disease before it starts, rather than treating it once it manifests in the body. And this is another thing I love about Ayurveda, because I'm all about prevention. I'm all about living holistically in alignment with nature, so that the whole point is to prevent disease and just make the end of your life much more tolerable if you don't have as many things wrong. So living in sync with nature's rhythms are a major part of Ayurveda, both daily and seasonally. So not only is it about living in alignment with your specific dosha or constitution, but it's also about living in alignment with nature's rhythms. So every season there are different things to eat, there are different exercises, there are ways that you can transition from one season to the next, and even daily. Like, this is why I just love Ayurveda so much, because it really encompasses everything that I believe and everything that I've been talking about. Before I even knew what Ayurveda was, I was practicing these very things without knowing that it was actually a 5,000-year-old system. So like daily routines and self-care, those are two of the biggest things. So the next slide here is the doshas that I was telling you about. So Vata, Pitta, and Kapha are made up of different elements. So Vata is made up of ether and air, and ether is space, if you didn't know what that meant. Kapha is made up of earth and water, and Pitta is made up of fire and water. So as you can see, the elements are kind of split up a little bit. Pitta and Kapha both have a lot of water, and the other ones are kind of, you know, more sturdy. Like the Kapha is the earth, and that's, you know, the most sturdiest of them, and Vata is pretty much the only one that has a lot of air. So, and another thing about these doshas, this is not just your body type. These are also ways that your body expresses each of these elements. So you can be a Vata body type and still have a lot of Pitta or a lot of Kapha. You know, any of these can be in any combination. And what would this mean is that if you have too much Pitta in your body, that would mean you probably have inflammation or an infection or excess anger. And if you have too much Kapha in your body, this would probably mean that you have too much mucus. You know, you have a very sturdy body. So there's so many nuances to this. And now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the doshas as far as the way your body is going to be. So if you are a Vata dosha, you have air and ether, and your body is probably going to be thin and slender and a low weight. And like I said, there's air in Vata, so your skin is going to be dry. Your hair is going to be dry. You're going to have brittle, frizzy hair and rough, thin skin, and your temperament is going to be like the air. It's going to move around a lot. It's going to be changeable and enthusiastic. And I'm Vata, so I really understand this dosha, and I am all of these things. And if you're a Pitta, that's made up of fire and water, so your body's going to be a little bit more muscular, more of a medium weight. Your skin is going to be warm and reddish and prone to irritation. Your hair is going to be thinner, and your temperament is going to be more intense. Just think of how fire is, all of the qualities of fire. So then Kapha is made up of earth and water, so that if you are a Kapha type, your body's going to be larger, stocky, rounder, heavier weight. Your skin is going to be thick and smooth, and your hair is going to be thick and oily, and your temperament is going to be easygoing and accepting. So as you can see what the different qualities are, you might be able to start thinking of people that you know. You might know somebody that's a Pitta, like they have red hair, they're really ambitious, and they get angry easily. That is the stereotypical Pitta person. You know, I love learning about these qualities because I can see them in people, and you can recognize them more in yourself too. So here are the top foods to balance the Vata dosha. So if you feel like you're too dry and too spacey and jittery, and that is the sign that you need to balance your Vata dosha. So then you'd want to eat things like berries, lentils, sweet potatoes, pistachios, wild rice, dates, peaches, beets, avocado, and watercress. And another thing about Vata dosha is people that are Vatas love things that are creamy and thick and filling, like chili is a good example, or some type of meal that has like a creamy consistency to it and warm and thick. Those are really good foods for Vata. So the Pitta dosha is recommended to eat coconut, mung beans, kale, pasta, cilantro, cabbage, celery, figs, apples, and watermelon. Now, I just want to say that these are not the only foods, of course. These are just the best ones and some of the most common ones that will help to balance these doshas. So the foods that are going to balance Pitta dosha are going to be cooling foods. So coconut is very cooling. Cilantro is cooling and helps to get rid of toxification in your body. Watermelon is, of course, very cooling. Celery. And you might notice that these are very watery foods. So they also help to cool the body down. And then when it comes to Kapha, if you have a Kapha imbalance or if you are a Kapha dosha body, you're going to want to eat a lot of these foods. Chickpeas, blueberries, spinach, dry oats, cauliflower, chia seeds, asparagus, lentils, apples, eggplant, peppers, spices. So these are going to be foods that are going to help dry up the excess water in your body. Like that's why there's some spicy things on here, like peppers and spices, of course. They're going to help dry up the body. So that is an overview of how to eat for these doshas. So the next slide here is about exercise. Now I've taken this out of my workbook. I have an Ayurveda workbook, which I'll share with you in a minute. But this is just an overview of the exercise guidelines for these. So I'm going to go through the good ones and then the bad ones. So the good ones, these are ones that you want to do more of. So once you learn what your body type is, then you can follow these guidelines. And as you'll see, the exercises for Vata involve a lot of things that are going to generate heat, a lot of things that keep your body moving. And then the Pitta ones are going to be more like winter sports. You know, they should not exercise in the middle of the day. They should not do too intense exercises. And Kapha is best. You know, they really can do almost anything because they have such a large body size in general that if they have the energy and the motivation, which is usually the problem with Kaphas, is they usually get stuck and they usually get lazy, but any exercise is going to benefit the Kapha. So the next thing I want to talk about is seasonal eating, and this is a big one. So you might be wondering, when it comes to seasonal eating, how do you do that when it comes to the foods that are for your specific dosha? So let's say that you are a Vata dosha, and so you're supposed to eat a lot of warm, thick, creamy foods, but then it's summertime, so you're hot, and maybe you don't feel like eating creamy foods, you know. And so that is where there's a lot of nuances here, and you're going to want to go according to the season first, and also according to whether or not you have any imbalances. And this is such a huge topic. There's actually like hundreds of foods that you should only eat in the winter, and vice versa for the warm seasons. So I have learned all of the information that I know about this from this book. It's called The 3-Season Diet. And the reason why it's called 3 seasons is because there's really 3 seasons of growing. So the winter is where you're living off of the food that you grew already. And then spring is where the first things come out of the ground, like berries and lettuce, things to make salads. And then in the fall, you have the third portion of the year, which is basically the second harvest of the year. And that's where you get things like squash and potatoes and pumpkins and things like that that you generally will eat in the fall and in the winter. So I will leave a link down in the description of this video if you want to check out this book. It's literally this guy, Dr. John Douillard, is, I think he's the most helpful expert when it comes to how to eat according to Ayurveda. And he's actually got another website that I learned from too, and a YouTube channel. So look him up if you're really interested in Ayurveda, because he is the most knowledgeable that I've ever seen when it comes to people that know Ayurveda. And I've studied Ayurveda for years. I've studied it from a couple different people, and I think that this guy is the most knowledgeable. So I would definitely start with this book. This book will also go into exercise too, but it's mostly about the foods. So I have an Ayurveda lifestyle workbook that I created to make it easy for people. If you don't want to take a course, you can just get this workbook, and it's got the basics. And that slide where I showed you the exercise, that's one of the pages. So there's 30 pages, and this is a printable thing, so it's an instant download, and this will teach you the basics of Ayurveda, even deeper than this video went. And then you can plan your lifestyle based on your body type, and you can also learn what body type you have, because I have a quiz in the workbook. So the link for this will be in the description, and that's on Etsy. So I don't think that you have to have an account to buy something on Etsy. You can check out as a guest, but you can also sign up if you want. And that way you can sign in easily and buy more things. So if you're looking for a little bit more in depth than just the basics, I have an online course called Introduction to Ayurveda. So in this course, I go through everything that's in the workbook in more in depth, and it's also a video. So if you would prefer to learn with video, then this would be a good way for you to learn. So the link will be in the description, and that is on Udemy. Again, you might need to actually make an account on Udemy to get on there, but it's easy. So if you're interested in learning more about the course, I actually have a video that goes into what the course is about, so you'll be able to see before you enroll. So check that out, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.